Today we have Ryan joining us. Ryan is the founder of Tell Studios, where he and his team help founders and CEOs uncover the big why behind their business and share that with the people who benefit from their products and services, their customers. Ryan's also a podcaster, speaker, and educator. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, dude, thank you for having me. This is a fun way to start my morning.
So lots to cover today. You've got a really interesting background, and you're working with other businesses all the time to help pull out the best parts of themselves. There's a lot of different ways people can share and distribute that content, and one that we see quite often is YouTube. So I wanted to kick things off and talk a little bit about the pros of that approach and why YouTube is a great platform to get started, but also want to talk about some of the alternatives. So I guess if we were to kick things off there, what are some reasons that people should be using YouTube if they're not already?
I think we've been hearing this for the last, I don't even know, decade plus, but YouTube is the number 2 search engine, right? Number 1 is Google. Google owns YouTube, and that's just the way it goes. Now, when you're punching stuff into Google, when you're searching, you're not just getting articles and links to text. Little videos are popping up, and that is just becoming more and more. And it's incredible, like the SEO that is just packed into YouTube title and description, and now the actual content itself through transcriptions and everything that AI is able to be able to pull automatically, even if you're not writing your own transcriptions. So the smartest reason to be using YouTube is that you can be found. You can be found for the people that are searching for the problem that you're solving or the thing that you are addressing. And in a world where there's a lot of clutter, and I would imagine that most people would say, one of their top needs in their business is more customers or more engagement. And one great way is to have a solid inbound process. And if you make it easy for people to find you, YouTube is making that very, very easy for people, because most of your competition probably isn't on YouTube. And if they are, they're not creating content consistently. So if you decide to show up and you decide to be consistent, then you are winning, in my opinion.
One of the conversations I had for our first episode, we hit on, if you were to ask somebody who their competitors are, who's number one in their category, it's probably the folks that are embracing video. And that doesn't mean you can't do that as well, or you can't be the one to lead the charge in that way. You talked about YouTube from a search perspective, from an SEO perspective, from a discoverability perspective. There's so much value in having that content out there where you can educate people and answer their questions. And I'm not a mechanic, and but I've been able to do some little things to my vehicles because of a YouTube video. With that, when it gets out of hand, or I need help, if it's that information is coming from someone that's in my area, I'm going to know and trust them more than just looking at a list of places online and having to make a decision on my own in that way. So,
well, and just to that point, when you are searching, it's like you've got an option to, like, let's just say my buddy owns a water conditioning business, and we were helping another buddy of ours just the other day, and he's like, yeah, we kind of dabbled with YouTube, but we're not going to do it. And I just said, dude, like, who's your competition, and are they doing video? And he's like, no. And I said, here's one of the other advantages to doing video, period, not just on YouTube, but this is probably where people are going to find you. But if they are looking at 2 different water conditioning companies that they could go with, and they go to one website where you kind of meet the founder, or you meet some of the staff, the people that are going to be coming to your house, and you see, like, wow, these aren't scary people. They're kind of fun. They actually have a personality. That's the difference maker in my mind. That's why, 20 years ago I got into video, because I just had this desire to be able to pull out the heart and the soul of who people are. And in this case, like who you are, like what is your brand really about? And just by showing up and saying hi, even if it's awkward and it doesn't feel like, oh man, I don't like being on camera, the fact that you are showing up again goes, you are probably beating your competition, because most people they're afraid of it. They're like, I'm just going to look dumb or sound dumb. But at the end of the day, people, when they see you and they hear you and they hear your perspective, and then if there's any authenticity or any of your heart that comes across, man, people connect to that, and that's going to put you way ahead than your competition, who's just got, nice photos, good copy, and it just feels like every other website that they're probably looking at.
Yeah, it's just copy, and you're talking about what you do and what you sell.
Yeah.
That's not going to look a lot different than the next person that's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so putting yourself out there, I think that goes a long way. Now, I think this is where I do want to take a bit of a turn, because if someone is watching content on YouTube and you're doing that for your business, like obviously it's a channel. It's not just a YouTube channel, like it's a channel for your business. And
Right.
if someone's going to book a call, get a quote, if they are going to actually interact with your business, chances are they need to make it back to your website. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about what's the difference in putting content on YouTube versus putting YouTube on your website. What happens when you put that YouTube video on your website?
Yeah. Well, from a like a holistic part of my thing as a filmmaker for the last 20 years, we started, and for the longest time, we were just like, how do we make the most gorgeous, cinematic, emotionally driven pieces? And we fell into the wedding world for a long time and created these gorgeous films. And so we kind of fell into a trap of like, everything needs to look amazing. And with that, when we transitioned in 2012 to doing focusing mostly on corporate and commercial type work, people's websites, like that's the place where people are probably going. Maybe they find you on YouTube or they find you somewhere else, but eventually, hopefully, they end up on your website. And if your website feels like you've invested time and energy to create something that is helpful for people to understand how you work and your process and your why and all of that stuff, that's that. I mean, I would hope that most businesses say like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do with our website. So what people have done and do is maybe they upload their about us video, or they've got whatever, we'll just say about us video, to YouTube, and they're getting views and engagement, and that's great. Well, then they can take that embed code from YouTube and they can go to their website, on their front page, where it's like, man, front and center, like we want people to know who we are and why we do this work. So like, let's embed this video at the top above the fold. And so you paste that web copy from YouTube, and then you hit publish, and then you look at your web page and it's like, sweet, like now we've got our video here. The challenge in my mind is that now you've gone from having a clean experience for your people that's really promoting you and your brand and how you help people. But now what you've done by adding a YouTube video is now there are two things at play here.
Yeah, it's a YouTube commercial.
Yeah. It's a very subtle commercial for YouTube, because once somebody hits play on that video, actually even before they hit play on that video, the title of the video is there. And if somebody touches that title with their mouse, whatever, trackpad, whatever, that's going to take them to YouTube to have the YouTube experience. So
Right.
now you've lost the opportunity. The goal when
You've
somebody
worked
lands
really
on your
hard to
website,
get them to your site, and you
yeah,
made it really easy just to get back to YouTube.
to get back to YouTube, you want them on your website as long as they can be there. You want them engaging. You want them, if you have a free offer so you can collect an email address, or you have some other call to action, like that you should have some kind of a goal. Your goal shouldn't be get people to my website so we can get them off of our website. And that's one of the challenges of having YouTube embedded, especially somewhere on like your front page or about page, one of the main pages of your website,
or even a blog or a landing page, in any video for that matter. If it's not a play button, and going to take them off of your site, like what are you doing?
right? Right. And then there's the just the aesthetic of it feels like YouTube. So if you've got this gorgeous site, different fonts, different look, feel, color, everything, and then now you've got the YouTube experience in this little box, but then somebody hits play, they watch a video, then there's a potential for other videos from other companies that are going to be suggested that aren't you. So there's one more opportunity for somebody to leave. Like they could literally be on your website to learn about your water conditioning, watch this video that you've embedded on your front page, and at the end YouTube's like, oh, they're interested in water conditioning, so let's feed them a couple other
Right.
water
From your
conditioning sites. And
competitors.
yeah, your competitors, and now they've clicked off your website because they found, just this like really interesting cool video, and then they call this person because they're off your website. So aesthetically, I don't think it looks great. I posted on LinkedIn a couple of months ago about this, and this ended up being one of my most engaging posts, where I just said, don't embed YouTube videos on your website. I haven't retracted that statement, but I have revised it, and I've said, if you have a blog on your website as part of your strategy, I think putting a blog post and embedding a YouTube video on a blog post is so appropriate.
If you're referencing other material or that video is not your own, I think that's a great opportunity to bring in other resources that
for sure
tie into the story, what you're saying. And that's not to say, like, if it's your own, if you've written a blog and you did a video about it, that those can't live in the same place. But I think when you're referencing other material, that's where YouTube is so rich to bring that into the content that you're creating. I might challenge that a bit if you got them on your website and it's your video. But there's definitely pros and cons either way.
Yeah, pros and cons. I mean, the pro of having your video on your blog, there, like, it counts toward your views, it counts toward engagement, but still, like, my preference is going to be, like, if you're going all in on YouTube and you want to create, some consistency there, just let that live on YouTube. Don't intermingle, because some people are like, well, we did this video and, like, let's put it everywhere. It's like, I don't think that if you've only done one video that it's actually going to, and somebody's probably going to prove me wrong, said, we did one video on YouTube and our business blew up and this is amazing. I think having that experience, controlling that experience, but having YouTube videos on your website can help with the SEO game. But I'm not sure that's what I would want to do. I would rather have the YouTube experience be fully for somebody that is on YouTube, that searches, you come up as a searched video that's on YouTube, they click on Google, they end up on YouTube, and then from there, your call to action is like, hey, go to our website, we'll do a free call, free audit, download our free thing or whatever, and they have to go to your website to download this thing, and you can put your link in the description. That's the experience that I would recommend for anybody that's considering, hey, I've got one video or I've got 100 videos, what should I do with them?
Yeah. We're back at discovery. If people are hanging out on YouTube where they can find you, make sure you're seen, but bring them back to you. Bring them back to your home base. I think something else I've seen here, and I've got a fun story. There will be ads on your YouTube video.
Right.
If you put that on your site, we're not just talking about the recommendations for other content at the end. There will be ads on that content. And I think what's lost on a lot of people is that you have no control over those ads. Like it is based on each individual viewer's own interest and experience. Yeah. And so I had someone I worked with where they did a giant project for Little Brownie Bakers, Girl Scout cookies, Kellogg's, like that whole world. And they do this huge annual event every year where they have every troop in America like tune in for this multi-hour long stream. And they've got one troop that writes in where they just had some ridiculous ad show up that the kids probably should not have seen. And they're like, how did this happen? Why did you let this happen? It's like somebody logged in on their personal computer, and it just happened to show an ad for the things that they're into for a room full of kids.
Oops.
So, I mean, that could happen to anyone. If you've got YouTube on your site, there's going to be ads that show up on that. And when people are on your site, they're going to associate that content with you and your brand, whether you like it or not. And so, I think, if you're on YouTube, people get it. That's expected, but to have that happening on your own.com is a different story.
Well, and then the funny thing is, like, if your search history is going to help Google, or yeah, Google and YouTube know what ads to feed you. And so again, like, somebody could be on your website with this YouTube video, click play, and your competitor has a YouTube ad, and that ad could come up on your website. It's like, is that really what you want?
Yeah. But I feel like we've beat this one to death. But it's not to say don't use YouTube. You should
No,
absolutely
for
use
sure.
YouTube. Uh,
100%.
but it's a channel. It's a way to be discovered. And if you've got people back on your website, you should probably also have video. But there are alternatives, and so
Yep.
I guess this would probably be a good moment to talk about some of those from the native tools that might be built into your website builder, like Squarespace or Wix or whatever it is,
Mhm.
uh, to some of the paid solutions that are out there. So I guess if you could walk us through some of those alternatives, if you're going to be bringing video to your .com.
Yeah, again, like, I go to, like, what's the cleanest interface, and one that's not like promoting their own service, so that it's like, oh, this, what is this? Maybe I should have this service too. Uh, we've used Vimeo forever. I mean, as a video company, they really catered to filmmakers long ago, and so we just have this affinity for them. Wistia has been a very powerful tool because you can measure engagement. There's gated stuff that's really smart. You can see, are people rewatching different parts of your video? So a lot of cool analytics. I heard of this one app called Stitcher.
Switcher. No, sorry.
Yeah,
Now we're
that
making a
too.
commercial anyway.
Yeah. There's, there, I definitely think that there are some great alternatives, that, especially when you're thinking about your website. I don't know enough about, I just had a client of ours email me this morning and say, hey, we're working with a web designer, and they want to know, do we want to embed a video, or do we want to upload a video to our actual website server? I don't know enough about, like, cached memory and like what it takes to run a video. I never upload videos natively to a website. We're typically using Wistia. In some cases, we've got some video embeds on our website, but our website provider allows uploads, but they're actually connected to Wistia. So again, it's a Wistia embed. So I think that there are probably some negatives to uploading directly to your website host, depending on who the host is and how they host videos. But you probably know more about that than I do.
So I think some of what I've seen play out is, if you're paying for WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or HubSpot or Shopify or one of these CMS website builders, uh, they're going to have options built in where you can upload a video and have a play button. But that's kind of where it ends. It's a box, and it's going to play, and you don't have a lot of control for styling that in most cases. You don't get a lot of analytics on it. It's to put that content on your page, and so it's included for a thing you're already paying for, which is great. And it's different than the YouTube experience because it's not going to take them off your site. It's not going to have those third-party ads. Um, that's absolutely a great place to start, especially if you're going to add content, throughout your site and other places beyond just the homepage. I think where you get into other tools like Vimeo, Wistia, or even what Switcher offers, that's where you're going to have more control over how you
Mm-hmm.
style that. That's where
Yeah.
you're going to have things like analytics and like how is it performing. Vimeo and Wistia in particular, I see in my mind they have really been built for marketers and agencies, and so they have a lot of those
Yeah.
tools for how do we measure the performance on this. Um, it's also something where sometimes an agency might have a Vimeo account where they're using it for several clients, and you don't even have to think about it. If you're working with that agency, like maybe they're providing that as a service for you. Um, what what I've and so with that, there's other places you can put video or host video, through Kajabi or Ustream, that end up being your website and your video and your memberships and your CRM. And so, like, if you're starting from zero, and you don't have a website, you don't have a way to manage your contacts and customers, there are kind of all-in-one solutions that have a video component and wrap in these other pieces. But what I see there is that that is often more for a creator that's becoming a business versus
Mm,
a business that already has a website that they've invested in, that
yeah.
already has a CRM and a way of managing how they're going to communicate with their customers. And so that's where I think there are other solutions you might want to take a look at. They're more portable, or can work in parallel and alongside those other tools in a more open way.
If you're already an established business and you're deciding, hey, let's do one video, or we're going to do more than one video, you, to be able to look at like how are people engaging, so to have that kind of control and to have better analytics. So it might cost a little bit of money to use one of those other softwares that can give you that, versus just slapping a video on your page, because it's like, well, our website allows us to upload stuff, but if you don't have that kind of control to see how people are they watching it, how many times has it been viewed, what's the retention rate, and all of that stuff, it's like you might not ever invest in video again because you're not measuring it properly. And so that's why, as a video company, we're always trying to encourage people like, hey, like we don't want this to be the first and only video that you ever hire us for. So how are you putting this on your website, or where are you putting it, and how are people going to be engaging with it, and what is the campaign that it's going to be tied to, and is there a call to action, is there a specific phone number or website or lead magnet that only people watching this video or having this experience are going to be able to be driven to, so that you can measure, is this thing successful? And if so, man, we got to call Tell Studios up again and have them do our next video.
Right on. I think the thing I love about what you just said is as an agency, you don't want to just have a one-off and you work with somebody
Yeah.
for a couple weeks or a month and make one video and that be it. But as a business, like, I also don't believe you're going to get the same benefit of having one video and then waiting 2 years before you do your next. And that is the
Yeah.
trap I see so many people
Oh my
fall
gosh.
into. Is like,
Yeah.
we did our website, we need a hero video, we're going to spend 10 or 20 grand to have this awesome, highly produced thing that's going to sit on our website, and then we forget about it. And their services might change, people might come and go. The world is changing, and your video and content is not. And so I think so much of what we see on social platforms, and some of the things we'll talk about through this series and this podcast, is video is eating the world. It's the main type of content on all the leading social platforms, and it's always new.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's also getting pushed down, and after 72 hours, it's gone. And so you got to make another one to stay relevant. And there's just some disconnect in like that experience that's so video first in the places people hang out and spend time, and then to go to your website and there's no video, or there's one that's stale or years old. um, I think getting into that routine, or making the commitment to continue to create, continue to share your story, and talk about your employees, interview your customers, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Keeping it fresh is really important, and having not just one video, but a second, a third. If people start watching, that they can keep watching, they're going to spend more time on your website. I'm maybe getting a little too amped up on this one, because it's the thing that I wake up and think about every day.
Yeah.
I think for businesses, before you even start, having a website is one of the first things you're going to do. We've talked about that in some of our other content, but it's not just set it and forget it.
Right.
At least not in 2025.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I would love to hear your perspective on some of those things. I understand from an agency perspective, like doing one video and then someone disappearing for a while, it's not great for your business, but I don't know that that's good for them either.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me a long time to realize, we would do these epic brand films for these businesses, and that would be, all they could budget, because it's not cheap. But, the longer I've been doing this, and, being where we are at today, it's like, you guys, if you don't have a social strategy, you're just missing out on a massive opportunity. And it doesn't mean that you need to come out with a new brand film, a new, $20,000 video once a week. It's like, what, maybe we do a brand film. I always tell people, have a piece that is like a brand film that really gets to your heart and your soul, and is this authentic piece, and it kind of shares your why. Have that so people really understand like who it is that you help, how do you help them, why do you do it, so that they understand and they can feel you as a brand. And it doesn't feel just, it feels different than another brand. Even if the other brand has a video that has the same kind of idea of a video, they should feel completely different. Pacing and music and style, and but personality, like who is featured in the video and like what's showing up. So having that, and then having a social strategy to support that key video, to get people engaging with your brand in some way, to have a top of mind strategy. And that's what I mean, for better or worse. It took me a long time to embrace social media, because I'm just like, no. Like, I just want I want them to be able to watch our one video and to say like, oh, we get it. Unfortunately, I can't keep sharing that video on LinkedIn. People are going to tire of that one video. Now, for me to come up with, a 1 minute or a 2 minute video of a talking head of me answering some frequently asked questions, talking about our process, how we make videos, what gets us fired up. I mean, you can pull out your smartphone, and these things shoot high quality video. I mean, there's some basic things you can do to make it look and sound a little bit better, especially sound. If it doesn't sound good, people are not going to want to watch it. Your visuals, people are a lot more forgiving, but every video that you do doesn't need to be this epic production. And that's where I think a lot of bigger brands get tied up, or small middle-sized brands that just feel like, well, if we're going to do something, it's got to be, it's got to be great. You should always strive to be great, but also know that social content, it's like snackable. It's like, give people a little bit, and then it's like, okay, I've had enough, and like, let me get to the meat, which might be the website, or might be the brand film, or it might be like downloading the thing. So creating consistent content that isn't highly produced, that might take 10, 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, but creating a rhythm and a schedule to say, these are the kinds of topics, these are the things that we think would be helpful for our audience, not pieces to brag or make you the hero, but ways for you to really serve your people. And FAQs are a great way to do that, but even entertaining stuff like behind the scenes. We make all these epic productions, and sometimes, a lot of times, people will engage with our behind the scenes stuff more than the finished product. And it's like, we just love to see how the sausage is made. And our behind the scenes stuff, it's shot with an iPhone, or it's shot with a GoPro or something like that. It's not super highly produced. It's raw, but it's real. And that's what people really are drawn to, is that like realness, that authenticity. So I feel like they kind of go hand in hand, like having, this piece that really gets to the heart and soul, that isn't your team putting it together necessarily, that maybe you do hire a professional to help you tell that story and help pull it out, because sometimes when we're in it, we don't
You're
really,
too close. Yeah.
you're too close. So doing that, but then coming up with some kind of a regular rhythm. What kind of videos can we be shooting, and who's the person that is going to lead this charge, and just make it happen, because it's so important. If you really believe in your product or service, video is going to be one of the best ways that's going to set you apart, and that's going to help you to move your mission forward.
And that's something where an agency can help you with that strategy, or help you through the first few videos. But it's also something that you can do on your own with the hardware you already have, like your phone. And there's a ton of free resources out there as well, where you can do it. I think that's the hardest part. It's just getting started. I mean, here I am running a video company, and I'm just starting a video podcast 10 years in. So it's like, it's never too late. It's never too late. And I think the other wrinkle I would add here is, making that content for social is really important for reach and awareness. It's really important for discovery. But that video doesn't have to die. It doesn't have to get pushed down the feed. It doesn't have to disappear. you can turn around and put that content on your website.
100%.
You can have a collection of behind the scenes content. You can have a collection of testimonials or FAQs. Just don't embed YouTube on your website. And so I think that's one of the big opportunities I see for businesses that are really looking at how they can grow in 2025 and beyond. You've got to have a social strategy, but it can't just be in service of what social wants and getting on the treadmill and pumping out content till the end of time, unless there's something in it for you. And I think for many businesses, that means using social to your advantage. And that means finding ways to have that content bring people back to a place that you own and control. And whether that's your website or some other platform where you can engage in other ways, where you can get leads, where you can get them on your mail list, whatever that is, you need to be able to have that direct relationship with your customers beyond what's happening on social. And so making sure video's in the mix and that you're not just handing your video over on social and that you're not giving it all away for free, that you're using that to help service you. That, I think that is a bit of the conversation we're looking to have as we go deeper on some of these episodes.
Well, I would say the last part, I love everything that you said. I agree 100%. The last part of our framework, it's lead. It really means like lead people to some kind of an action, call to action, right? Anybody who's familiar with HubSpot, I think they taught us about calls to action, a decade or more ago.
Yeah, inbound's happening right now. I'm going to date this episode, but we're in the middle of it right now.
So having some kind of it doesn't have to be like, go to our website or, call us right now. That doesn't have to be the call to action. But I always tell people, like, we want every single video to, make people think, feel, or do something. And when you start your strategy or you're getting ready to record, start with that end in mind and say, like, what, I've got this thing I'm super passionate and excited about, but what's the call to action? What do I want people to think, do, or feel after they see this video? And it might literally be, like, download this thing or go to our website or DM me. But it could also be like, you really want people to feel connected to you. And that's why you wanted to share this really personal, vulnerable story. And that's how you build likability and trust. And that's how you get people closer to wanting to hire you. But to your point, yes, come up with a social strategy, do it, commit to it, and you will win when you're doing it just for yourself, not because everybody says, like, oh, you should be doing video, you should be on YouTube and you should be on TikTok and all these things. Only if you start with the end in mind and say, like, what is our strategy here? Add value, but then figure out how can you capture these people, whether that's like getting them onto your email list or getting them to engage in your website, or
who's most engaged, so you can keep them warm.
Yep, 100%.
So I know, podcast educator, those were some of the things we had at the top for the intro. Where can people go to learn about your podcast? And could you share a bit about the mobile filmmaking class that you're spinning up? I think that's a great resource for people that are looking to do it on their own, but might need some help coming out of the gate.
I'm most active socially on LinkedIn, so it's Ryan Koral. It's Koral. My podcast is, 8 years ago, I started this podcast for filmmakers because I love my filmmaking community. And so a lot of the episodes, I've got amazing speakers that talk about sales, marketing, branding, mindset, all of these things that any person in business, it would be helpful for. But the show is really like, I'm speaking to filmmakers, so whatever. But you are still invited to listen to it. The show is Grow Your Video Business. We just passed 400 episodes a couple of weeks ago. Oh, wow. I cannot believe. But it was one of those things. I said, we're committing to this. Like, let's be consistent. And I never would have thought, though, we'd be this far along.
Yeah, but I think we were booking this call, and you said you had like 5 podcast conversations queued up for today.
Yeah. So we batch them. That's how we can do this. That's how I can do this today, is by just saying, like, hey, Thursdays once a month, we're just going to do 4 or 5 episodes. And so that's what we're doing today.
There you go.
Yeah. And we I launched, I would love everybody in the world that has a huge budget and a desire to create, epic films for their brands to hire us. That can't always be the case. It isn't always the case. And so over the last few years, I've just racking my brain. I'm like, how can I help more people? Because I want people showing up. And I want to help build confidence in people and just say, like, your story matters. And it really, truly, if you have a product or service that you think can change the world, even in a small way, you have to, it is your responsibility to show up for people. And I think video is the most powerful way that you can do that outside of being across from somebody, like in person with somebody. And so I came up with this idea, like, let's build a course. Let me do a coaching program, whatever I can do to equip people with tools and things that they can use to elevate their own video experience for people using their phone. Everybody's got one. Everybody can do this. And so we call it the Smartphone Film Academy. And it is a course. I also offer a cohort because I've realized that a lot of people will like buy the course and be like, okay, cool, this is great. I know more about how to shoot better and, better lighting and whatever. But there's this fear, like you hit record and you're staring into the camera and it's like, I hate how I look. I hate how I sound. But again, I'm going to go back to my favorite phrase to use is your message is more important than your mug. You have to get over what you look like, what you sound like, and just produce. And so that's why I'm offering the cohorts. Trying to do, I think once a quarter is the rhythm that we're looking for, where I just take a smaller group of people through the content and then give them challenges, watch their stuff, give them feedback, personalized feedback. So if people are interested in learning more about the Smartphone Film Academy, if you go to tellstudios.com/academy, you can sign up. I think right now we've got a wait list on there, and more information will be coming. But yeah, we've done it. It's a great program, and I'm excited to continue to build that out.
Awesome. Talk about a CTA. Any video you make, tell people what you want them to do, and you can lead with it up front. You can remind them in the middle. You can close out with it. You take them from that content they're engaging with to take action. And especially if you're doing stuff on social, find ways to bring them back to you. So I think that's a good place to close it out for today. Thank you so much, Ryan. Enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure we'll talk more.
Nick, appreciate it. I'm excited for your new show, and thanks for having me on.